A major part of Access database is the query module. Now, queries are where you can extract certain records from your entire table. If you've got 2,000 records in your staff table, you don't always want to see 2,000 records. Sometimes you only want to see those people who are aged over 50, or those people that spend more than £10,000, those people that work in the sales department only. So this allows us to filter out the data. So we're going to create a query. You go to the Create ribbon, and you'll see there's a section called Queries. And we can use the query wizard. And you give several options. These are covered in other courses, but we are going to use a simple query wizard. We click OK. It asks us first of all, what do we want to base the query on? Now, we've only got one table here. If we had several, we could choose from a list of tables. We're going to choose the list of staff as it's the only table we have. And we can then choose which fields we want in this query. Now, for example, we might choose their first name. Now, we can either double click on that and it puts it across to the right hand side, or we can select it and use the single chevron to put it across. If you want all of the fields, you can click on the double chevron to put all of them across. You can also use the chevrons down here pointing to the left to bring fields back. So whichever field you have in the right hand side are the ones that will appear in the select query. So for example, we might have the address, town, county, postcode, and the department. We choose next. It asks us for a title. We'll call it list of staff query, and we'll open it. So we do finish. Now at the moment it's created just a regular query that shows us all the records in that table. At the moment there's no criteria for it to go by, so that's why we've got all 15 records. How do we edit this? Well, like we did with a table and the form, we have the view that the end user sees and we have design view, and it's the same in a query. This is our data sheet view, the results. If we look down in the bottom right, we've got that design view button. Clicking on that will take us into our query design. Now if you look at the top, you'll see that it has the table that we're working with just here, along with all the fields. Each one of those fields populates a column in this grid down here. This is called the query grid. And if you look on the first row, that's the name of the field from the table. The second row tells us which table it's from. You can use multiple tables up here. So this tells us that all of these fields come from the list of staff. The third row is the sort. You can use a query to sort the data into alphabetical, numerical or date order. We have a row that says show. We're showing all of these when we view this, so we see all of the fields, but you can untick these if you don't need to see a particular field. We then have a row that says criteria. Now this is where you would type what you're looking for. Now as an example, we could come down here and on the criteria row, underneath the department column, you must put it under the correct column. What if we were looking for all of the people in sales? We could type the word sales in here. When we enter that, you can see Access puts the speech marks around it. We can then view this. Now again, we can either come down to the bottom right to choose the datasheet view, or we could go up to the top left corner and click on view, which again will show us the results. Here we got the data sheet, but instead of showing all 15 records, if we look down on the navigator bar, we see we've got 7 records, and the reason we got 7 is because all of the sales department are there. If we go back to the design, we can do other things as well. If we want to do a secondary criteria, what if I was looking for everyone in sales but also those people that work in payroll? What I could do, if you look at the next row down, this row is called OR. So I could say I'm looking for all of the sales people or the people in payroll, and you just type what it is you're looking for. If we view that again, the results are the people in sales and payroll. If we come back to this, we can remove payroll, and instead we could look, for example, all of the men that work in sales. Now for this, we need to add another field. Here's a list of our fields from our table. What you can do is just with your mouse double click on the field that you want. If I double click on the sex field, you'll notice it adds it to the last column. Then in the criteria row, I can type the letter M. So now what the criteria is saying, can you show me all of the records that contain the word sales and they contain the M in the sex field? If we view that, we've now got all of the salespeople who are men. If you look down here, we got 4 of these. Now remember, just like a form, queries do not hold any records. So when we close this and save this, we're not saving 4 records. And to demonstrate this, if we open up one of our forms, if we find somebody who's not in sales, so here we got Paul Newman, he's male, and he works in dispatch. If I change this to sales, close this form down, if I now run the query that we've just created, so if I double click on this query, you'll now see that I've got 5 records. Paul Newman is added to this. Think of a query. When you save a query, it just saves the set of criteria. It doesn't save the records. So every day you run this query, it will pick up the current state of the table. And that's how you create a query to extract records from a table.